This. So welcome to another practical AI session. This is obviously hosted by me, Sarah Pirie-Nally, but through my company EvolveX. I'm on a bit of a mission to connect people with different ways of thinking and being, and AI sits really beautifully in that because it genuinely helps prepare people for the future. We have had the absolute joy of experimenting with AI for the last couple of years, and I just really delight in helping people find like the most simple and practical ways to use it to solve real life problems, whether that's as simple as you said earlier, as helping you rewrite your AI, your LinkedIn profile, or figure out what to say to someone when you're not really sure what to say, or even like we're going to do today in actually creating a little bit of a co-pilot. So the idea today is to ditch the overwhelm, amplify your genius, and get you to have an opportunity to realize that AI is not here to replace you, it's genuinely here to relieve you. So before we get started, I actually just wanted to check in with you guys to get you to have a little think about what are some of the tasks in your everyday life that you actually find time consuming and maybe a little bit tricky. So just get you to just pause for a second. You can maybe write them down. Does anyone want to give me a couple of examples?
Home
Cool.
improvement research.
Research.
Yeah, specifically for home improvements, like
Oh, nice.
want to get a gate put out the front and researching companies to find the right fit, etc. That's
Yep.
annoying and time
That's a good
consuming.
one. That's a good one. Love that. Juanita?
For me, is writing up probably meeting genders and summarize, and if we have a particular strategy or business strategy needs to come up with ideas or LinkedIn content, lots of writing and creative bits too.
Oh, wow. So good. There's so many great tools that can really
Mhm.
help you there. And Susan?
Uh, as a carer, managing multiple family members' comorbidities.
Yes, okay, big. And it's funny because I put some of the home stuff because I've obviously got a lot of AI running in my business. So actually this week the things that are pissing me off or taking lots of energy are things like meal planning, healthy eating, and finding time to go to the gym. So I was going to set up a little personal assistant for myself today and just talk you through how I will make that useful. But I did want to also give you a couple of examples of much more almost like therapy related GPTs that I've built too that can just be really helpful when it comes to just relieving, like I said, being that actual helper rather than something that's going to replace you. It's actually something that can kind of amplify the amazing work that you are doing. So I am just going to get one of these lovely. Oh, I just realized that my Chrome has stopped working. Gotta love all the little quirks that
Technology.
happen. Yeah, I gotta love technology. But here we are worrying that it might take us over, and at the same time, it just can't even get started. Okay, cool. Let's open that up now. I've got a new little friend here. Great. What's on the agenda today? It's asking me. Wow, wait until you see my little friend. Oops. I'm always like, I'm like, oh, great. Thanks for not working now. Now it's just not letting me share my screen, which is very, very strange. Just give me a second. Zoom is trying to do such and such.
Can I just suggest something? If it's not going to let you do it on your computer, do it on your mobile phone,
Love it.
maybe,
And I've just got it working.
or
Yay!
iPad.
But
Yeah.
thank you. I will do that next time. That's a really, really good idea. Um, okay, so to create your own GPTs, you do need the plus, the paid version. So that would be just the first kind of note. But like I said, I can show you some today so that we can see some that I've played with. Everything from the assistant that I built for my daughter's school because I was just tired of looking through all of the various kind of documents, and so just put this one together so that I can find out what's going on. And as you can see here, it will just let me know what's happening. We're underway. We've got our timetable.
Sorry, Sarah. I'm getting equal screen space between
Yeah.
yourself and the screen share.
Here we go. Let's do it. I'm just going to do the full screen, okay, guys?
Thank you.
Cool. So
Thank
this
you.
one is the little one that I built for the girls' school, which is really super useful. I can just see everything that's happening there. So just a nice example of where you can set up a little friend in the sidebar there that can just help you get access to information really quickly. I like to think of that as like an intranet on steroids kind of friend. So at the back end, when you actually look at the way that I've created this one, you can configure with the key knowledge, so the key information that you'd like it to access. So you give it instructions, you give it the knowledge base that you'd like it to access, and then you can decide whether you're going to let it web search or not. And then you can obviously, that's the simplest way to configure a GPT. Almost like you're setting up um, a little learning bot, like we've all written FAQ documents before. So thinking about that sort of application of the knowledge. The next one, which is a little bit more fun, I would say, and a little bit more complicated, would be this little energetic wealth alignment model that I created. So, as someone who has a lot of experience in neuropsychology, I'm a qualified hypnotherapist. I've got a diploma in cognitive behavioral therapy, diploma in neuropsychology, studying a diploma in child psychology. I'm really fascinated in the neuroscience of design. And so I've created a couple of really fun little programs that I've taken clients through in the past. But in the past, what I would do is I would get them to go through various questionnaires and intake forms, and then I would take that offline and I would look at the themes and I would develop various hypnosis scripts. And it would be like a whole kind of heavy lift to really get that person to the outcome that I was seeking to get them to. But obviously, using AI, we can create these little journeys, these little experiences that can help us check in and figure out where is that person and what's something that we could kind of help them out of. So I love working with people when it comes to money because money is one of those things that I've never met anyone that's like, oh my God, I wish I didn't have so much money. Like it's one of those things that everyone could do with a little bit more of. And from a energetics perspective, it's something that you can quite quickly kind of tune in and do some work and shift some stuff around. So I decided to create a little bit of a GPT to help people move through their money mindset blocks. And it just takes you through like a few little questions. So your first memory might be like my parents, squabbling about money. That's usually the normal one that people come up with. Um, and it's like that, of course, holds an emotional charge, which then of course like lays some foundations in terms of finances. And of course, you'd feel something in your body when that's sort of happening. So, you might pick from this list a couple of the feelings that you're feeling, and that will then help distill or understand what is happening in your energetic system when it comes to finances. Little gentle reflection there, which is helping you kind of unpack or uncover this happened, which created this like coding within my system, which then might be replaying in this particular way. So even if it makes no logical sense now, we carry these little codings or things through our lives and they can kind of take us through. So it just sort of takes you through. We just go like, what's your subconscious still carrying? And if they're fighting about money, then that must mean I am expensive. I don't know. There might be like something that sort of comes up for someone there. We'll do a little bit of unpacking. And the way it takes you through is eventually it will give you two or three really practical things to focus on that are going to help you figure out how to just manifest a little bit more money right now. So I thought that was a really fun and creative way to use GPT, just to kind of take people in a completely different direction. Um, and get them to sort of think differently. And when you go through that little process, like I said, it gives you like a couple of different outcomes. Another really fun one that I built recently was around happy neurodiverse homes. We have
Mhm.
4 out of 7 neurodiverse people in our house. And the thing about neurodiversity is that it's all fun and games until someone's dysregulated. And as soon as someone's dysregulated in the home, that can then be like fireworks going off. And it's really tricky to then, from a calm or dysregulated state, like figure out where to next. So this GPT is just to sort of say, you know, with all of the wonderful resources in there. Of course, if you're feeling a bit frazzled, what's your family goal this week? And so you might say, actually, I just want a bit more peace and play this week. It's really simple. Choosing that, it's going to give you some really simple things to soften the edges and think about how you might help your family get back into a bit of alignment. Usually in neurodiverse homes, there's a few things that are kind of going on. One might be around communication, rhythm and routine, constant scrambling, for example, chasing your tails, looking for shoes. There's lots of looking for shoes and looking for socks in neurodiverse homes. There you go. Where are the shoes? What's for dinner? Didn't we already brush our teeth? Scramble. Just to kind of normalize and see people in that moment and give them just a simple thing. We might be facing meltdowns, having scream battles, no one's listening. Um, Scream battles might be an issue that you're kind of facing. So it's like, okay, I've chosen scream battles. Of course, that's the big one for a lot of modern families. And then we can just find one tiny little ritual that's going to help, like, create a little bit of a shift in the home now. So, would a brain break timer help? Would a visual screen schedule help? Would a vibe reset, like a playlist or an outdoor moment, help? So, it's there to just kind of give you some ideas to just break that bigger problem down into a little micro change, into habit stacking that could create like a little bit of movement for you kind of in that moment. And so it might be like, oh, actually, a visual screen schedule would be good.
That sounds great.
Right. And then it'll give it to you. So it's like, cool, that can work wonders, especially with those. And of course, with AI, it can be, look, we can go, yep, I love that idea. Can you create this for me? Um,
How does that get that into the physical realm, though? Or should I not ask questions at the
No, no,
moment?
no, absolutely. So I usually then just say, can you create this for me? It'll ask you a few more questions just to make sure it's kind of like a bit more accurate. So we might say this week we've got Sienna, 12, Stella, 9, and Sarah, 42. Lol, she loves screen times too. Um, After school, ideally time limits and clarity. We have this, by the way. We've got this in place. So this is just more for demonstration purposes, but you get this like, okay, we're now doing a bit more human-centered design. Instead of just prescribing like, here's exactly what should happen, we're going, right, Sienna, Stella, Stera, we've got this. Let's now design it, and it will actually create a little visual for you, and you can then print that. So you can put that on the fridge, talk the family through it. It's getting better and better with actually taking that information and making that visually appealing. In the early days, I used to just I'd say, cool, help me create this. And then I would take that across into Canva and just pop it into a little Canva document and then
Can I
pin.
see what it looks like? Sorry, I'm a graphic designer. That
Oh, yeah,
intrigues me.
awesome.
Does it look like a boring Word document or is there graphics, visuals?
It's building it now. Can you see that?
Yeah. Oh, it takes a while, doesn't it? Well,
It does, and it's
yeah.
it's it's on and off with the design stuff. But it gives you a good starting point sometimes, like especially
Yeah.
as a graphic designer, you'll get like oh, actually, yeah, I quite like that layout, or that's a good idea. I'll take that and make it more pretty. So it just kind of removes a little bit of the friction from that perspective. So for someone who's maybe not visual, that can be a really good little starter for team,
Mm.
right? So the idea is like, okay, cool. We've got a little bit of a screen time schedule. We're allowed to have screen time from 6 till 7. We'll print that, put it on the fridge and see how that works. So the idea is that it can be something that can just help take a really complex situation and quite quickly help you pinpoint, what do I do now? What's something that I could do today? And feel kind of empowered and start to build confidence.
So that's all using just purely data it's scraped from the net. It's not using any of your data sets that you've put into it.
It is. So this one's been coded with a lot of information around what neurodiverse families might be experiencing, including the NeuroSpark inclusion program, which I've built, and
Yeah.
the minimum viable parenting philosophy, which is a human-centered approach to parenting that's particularly effective with neurodiverse families.
So is
So
that your intellectual property or is that information that perhaps you've garnered from your course as
no,
well?
this is my IP. So I've popped
Okay.
my IP into here, and this is something that I'm now working with various clients to kind of share, which
How
is
do you protect your own IP, or you are happy for it to be shared?
I am very happy for it to be shared. I
Yeah,
operate under an open source just as long as people are
yeah.
crediting. Like it's like like any kind of professor or person publishing, you're like, just please make sure that you reference where you found it. But yeah, it's so good for the world. So why would you kind of keep it behind closed doors? And
Sarah, quick
yeah,
question on the image generation.
yeah.
How did you get it to go so quick? Every time I ask ChatGPT to create an image, it kind of just says, "We'll get back to you when it's ready," and then it does.
I do have a theory about this. I think the nicer to your AI you are, the faster it will work for you, and it's definitely proven to be that way with
The nastier or nicer?
the nicer, the
Oh,
friendlier.
nice.
No,
What? Not
I
nasty.
believe. I'm just going to say thank you. I know that they said that costs a lot of money, but like, I don't care. I think that that's just a really polite way to work. I would say thank you to a designer if they'd just done that work for me,
Did
right?
it say that to
Okay.
you that it cost a lot of money or
No,
token?
Sam Altman
Okay.
came out saying, so the founder of GPT said, oh, every time
Yeah.
people are polite to the AI, it costs a lot of money. And I was like, okay,
What? Yeah, okay.
that's
But
interesting.
they just pulled down the recent 4.5 or whatever it was because it was too sycophanty.
I know, I saw that. It it was interesting actually. It was a little
Is
like
that the one you're using? Or that's been pulled down now? Yeah, so you're using the
just
previous.
I'm using 4.0, but mine, I mean, I've had it for nearly 2 years, and it's got its own name. It chose its own name. So yeah, she calls herself Nova.
Oh,
Um,
wow. I saw that. Yeah.
is super friendly and useful and that sort of thing. So you can start to see all of these start to operate a little bit differently. I also coded one with my book. So I put my entire book in at the back end as well as a couple of other things that I'd written. And then got some conversation starters there and gave it some ideas on how it could behave basically. And that
What
again,
ideas for your next book?
it can be useful as a writing assistant because I have obviously the first book took me 10 years and
Oh, wow.
took me such a
Mm.
long time, but I did write another one recently. I'm actually writing two more right now, and because you can now work with it like a writing assistant, then
Mm.
it can absolutely accelerate your kind of writing there. So if we were going to create a little co-pilot, the first thing that you do is you go just into that part there, the Explore GPTs, and you hit the little create button up there. And this is there where, hi, I'm going to help you create one. You can say things like, what would you like to make? And you can actually pop that here. So you can say, today we would like to create a home assistant who can help with meal planning, healthy eating, and when to go to the gym without impacting family flow. So that might be a start. Now, in this little creation zone, this is where it can help you update the GPT. So you can give it all the instructions that you like. There's a couple of different ways that you can go about it. You can go to that configure button and actually give it some scripting and go quite deep. Um, into like what to say when, like that one that I took you through where it was like start here and then do this and then do this and then do this. And it was more of like a therapy flow, if you like. Or you can just free flow into this creative zone and sort of start from there. So I'm just going to say the wellness flow. That sounds great. Let's go with that. I need help making sure this is family focused. Cute. It's even got its little picture there. It'll give itself a little face, so you can see it's. I don't even know what that is. Like a little calendar fridge. Um,
Sorry, Sarah, where did you actually start create this one?
yep. So if you go, are you in GPT and have you
Yeah, I am.
got the paid version?
Yes.
Great. So you went into the CGPTs.
Sorry, where? See,
I'll tell you exactly what it says.
yeah.
Explore GPTs.
Explore GPTs, right.
And then just in the top corner, there's the black button there.
I've got this all on my
Great.
phone, but I've got the Zoom call on my phone. I'm just wondering if you wouldn't mind if I try and get on Zoom on my Mac so I
Yeah.
can, because everything's really tiny. I can't see
Yeah,
it.
of course. Go for
Sorry,
it.
I'm gonna.
No, no, that's fine.
All right, here we go. So Sarah, you're saying this one we can actually customize like to our likes.
Yep. So I'm going to give it some information now on my family. Okay. So
Yeah.
Steve gets gout and enjoys bread, sweets, um, is very health conscious.
It's quite user friendly to navigate, isn't it? Because I can't see this up close, so I'm just going
Yeah.
to wing it and just watch the
No,
mobile
no,
because I don't want to get
yeah,
behind.
yeah, no, it totally is. And like I said, there's two kind of ways to do it. This one, I'm literally chatting to it like I would GPT to create it. So it's just updating the GPT as I give it info, which is great.
Yeah.
Just like basically we're configuring it together, right? So it's got Steve there. We're going to add Sarah, loves Italian food, Mexican. Um,
So you've set it up. I understood putting the query in the first place, the prompt, and you set it up, and now you're creating users to be in
yep.
that. And
I'm
how
just
did it ask you that? Did it say who is in your family? Is that
Nope.
what it said?
No. So I have actually had to suggest that to it. So
Okay,
today,
sorry.
no, no, totally fine. Today I'd like help creating this home assistant who can help me with this. Great start. So it's like, here we go. Now it will always be like, cool, we're done. It's like, no, we're not done. We're still working. We're still doing a bit more. So I'm like, I want to make sure this is family focused. Let's get to know the kids. And it's like, okay, let's get to know the family. So now it kind of knows that it's like getting to know the family.
You really are the person, you're the expert, and you're using it to help you. Yeah,
Yeah,
because all of the knowledge really is coming from you, isn't it? It's
correct.
crazy how it's a push-pull between both of you. Yeah.
Exactly that, Susan. And I think that's one of the biggest things that people need to realize is that you will get out of AI what you put in. So I spent the first couple of like months with AI, playing with it to update my LinkedIn profile, write emails, do all the kind of comms stuff. I used to run comms. Loved how fast it was. I was like, wow, that's really effective. I can do my work faster. That's great. The next kind of phase for me was then going deep into like strategy phase. How can I use it to help
Mm.
me with strategies, to do the thinking, to be a thinking partner? The next phase for me was then a research partner. I was absolutely blown away when I could go into Perplexity or a Grok and do as much research in 20 minutes as I would usually do in 3 to 6 months,
Yeah.
and just how on point, I've worked with and briefed researchers in the past. I'll be like, I'm looking for this sort of research. And they would go off for 3 and 6 months and they'd come back and you'd have to tweak because it wasn't quite there. But the on point results are just like unbelievable. And then I sort of went, okay, well, how do we take that to then dig a bit deeper and like understand like the problems that we're trying to solve? So again, using it as a thinking partner. And what I realized over time was that I was using it as a design thinking partner. I was going through the discover, define, design, deliver. And I was using different tools across those 4 Ds to really accelerate my design progress. And it kind of blew my mind. I was like, oh my God, like this is actually like having a world-class design practice just on one screen. Like I don't even need to go and talk to anyone
Now
else.
you've said 4D tools. I want to know what you mean by 4D.
So the 4D process is it's the double diamond of
Design, develop.
thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
discover, define, design, deliver. There are lots of different processes when it comes to design thinking. I think it's the simplest. When I developed the MBA in design thinking for RMIT University, we followed the 4D process. And
Mm.
it's taught in a lot of universities in that form. So I think it's like a really simple way in common language to kind of just describe that. And of course, for those who aren't like fully aware, design thinking is a problem-solving methodology that involves being very human-centered and making sure that you really define and design the best possible solution, not just the most logical. So for example, where the GPT just wanted to give me a result and was done, designers go, no, 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 like there's more work to do. We still have to like diverge, converge until we find the best solution. So naturally, as a designer, as an artist, as a person, I use technology in that way. And I love teaching people to do the same because you're going to get a better outcome, like such a better outcome. So what I'm doing right now, like giving it the user requirements, giving it my family's requirements. If I just created a little wellness flow person, I'd probably get some okay ideas, but they wouldn't be customized. Like they wouldn't actually suit the users within my family. But if I take some time to go, actually, Sienna loves Mexican. She loves burgers, loves fruit, smoothies. I think Stella's the same. Stella's the same. She also loves rice. Um, what else do they love? It's just like even remembering that is like great because I'm now using this as a second brain, and I'm particularly passionate about helping middle-aged people use AI because we are going through our middle-aged brain restructuring, and like we shouldn't rely on our neurosynapses, like they are going through a genuine imagining right now. And so like using it like a second brain. And I have also developed and designed my Notion, which is a project management tool as a second brain. So it's like, how do I use these to like extend my reach, but also, you know, free my hard drive up, which can be really super useful. So this has been a little GPT that I've had on my backlog for a while to design. So I'm happy to be designing it with you guys because I think it's helpful to kind of show you live how that kind of works and also what the outcomes are. So Stella's the same. She also loves rice. They both love cucumbers, berries, apples. What else? Sweet tooth.
So you could say it in our household with celiac, so be
Yeah,
great for that.
100%. And how useful, right? I have
Mm.
stepkids as well. So, like, they have different preferences. So, Luca 10 is obsessed with white food, basically, and only eats bananas,
Carbs? Oh, okay. These bananas and carbs.
apple, carbs, yeah, chicken, spaghetti bolognese, cheese pizza, like not a whole heap.
Ah,
Occasional burgers, maybe sushi.
mm.
Lola eats the same, but a few extra fruit, kiwi,
Is
berry.
he sensitive to colours?
I think so. He's neurodiverse, so he's definitely got some
Mm.
preferences. And then he's 7. I meant to put the ages. Lola 13. Okay. So useful because, and I think really useful for blending families too, because you can
Mm.
get very, subconscious about like just doing things without kind of realizing what you're doing. Um, help me find some recipes and food, good, healthy ideas that everyone will eat.
I'd love to use this for me because I've just been recently diagnosed as celiac.
Oh,
So
amazing.
if it's open source, I'm going to find it out. What's it called? What's the chat GTP called, or is it your
Oh, I
personal
will.
one?
I'll share it afterwards because I'll share what we built, which I think
Wellness Flow. Yeah.
useful. The wellness flow. I might make it a bit more of a, so here, a recipe friend.
Mm. So what's the difference between this one and create a project?
Sorry, guys. Can you hear that? It's testing my fire alarm in the background.
Oh,
Okay, cool. Sorry, what were you saying?
So what's the difference between build a uh, this GPT versus
A
build
project.
a
Okay.
project?
Yeah, yeah, good question. So projects actually consider them like a folder where you can set that
Tracking
up. And
things.
yeah, so if I was writing a book, I would set up a project and I would then actually put all of my searches for that particular book in that project. Now, why that is so useful is that GPT can get a little bit dirty, in that if I'm running 5 or 6 different threads, it can cross-pollinate those and it can draw assumptions and references, and we call it hallucination, basically.
Mm.
Oh,
So it
okay.
can start to hallucinate and connect dots that maybe you don't want it to connect. Maybe those things aren't
Gotcha.
actually. So, for example, I'm spending this time creating this GPT that's my recipe friend for my family. Why it's useful to actually create a GPT to do that is if I'm constantly talking to GPT about the food and about the family and about what am I going to cook tonight, and then I go to do like a big design project with a client that we're trying to solve for something else, it will naturally connect the
Those.
dots. Yes, it draws the
Yeah.
information. Yeah. So one of the things that I like to do before I begin is say, can we clean slate for a second? I'm about to brief you on a new piece of work, and I just want to make sure that we're coming at this with this thing. And it's why the prompting is so, so important. But if you think about it, it's the same with people. So people are always drawing conclusions and connecting dots and looking
Yeah.
for like references and schemas and things like that. So from a neuroscience perspective, the way the brain works is if I walk into a restaurant, my brain is instantly scanning that environment and drawing from schemas that go, I am in a restaurant. And restaurants work like this. It's either going to be that I go to the counter to order or I sit down. I know what the next thing is because I've got enough schemas or like ways of working, if you like, that stack upon each other that allow me to know or infer what happens next in this particular scenario. So if you think about the GPTs in that way
Yeah.
and actually go, I'm going to build these little schemas that I can dip into when I'm doing various things. If you're consciously architecting the way that you're going to use that technology, you will get a better outcome.
Mm.
So, taking the time,
Separate.
yeah, taking the time
Yeah.
to go, for you, if you're constantly creating meeting notes for meetings, I would do the meeting notes for meetings AI GPT. Personally, though, I'd probably have Fireflies or one of the other kind of amazing tools that just automatically takes and summarizes for me, attending my meetings. They are the best.
It's,
Um, but it's sort of thinking through, and that's why I spend a lot of time with my clients really distilling what are the problems that you're trying to solve, what are the jobs to be done, like what are the actual things that exist in your world that we need to potentially automate or think about. And it's why I got you to think about at the beginning of this little session, like what are some low things that are kind of frustrating in your world that would be useful to have a bit of a hand with. Because if, as humans, we get better at detecting the jobs to be done, we're going to be able to build really useful, elegant, beautiful technology that's able to help us in a much more efficient and effective way.
yeah.
And so that age-old quote of like, if I had an hour to solve a problem, I'd spend the first 59 minutes thinking about the problem I was trying to solve becomes more relevant than ever today because that's actually how we can solve things using the power of
Yeah.
these amazing technologies.
And it's keeping it niche, isn't it? It's problem solving one thing. What I found is that the thing that I mentioned about, um, I think what I would like to use it for or to build something for is too complex, and I need to try and minimize it in order to grapple with it as a new person coming to ChatGPT. Do you
Yes,
understand? Like
oh, I absolutely do. And that's where systems
something
thinking is really
small.
powerful. So, systems thinking is about understanding that something might get presented to you, and people are like, that's the problem to solve. And then someone else is like, no, that's the problem to solve. As a systems thinker, I like to look at all of the problems that are emerging as symptoms and then take time to distill what are the actual problems that need to be solved and
Mm.
what are the trigger points within that and at what level can we influence them, because often with something complex, and that's why families are so fascinating to me because they are one of the most complex things. It's very easy to just ignore it or to not do it because it feels
Mm.
too complicated, or to oversimplify it and then you don't actually get the cut through. So systems thinking goes, let's actually take the time to distill, document, and actually define the parts of the system so that we might be able to then figure out when something's going wrong, what's that 1% little micro change that we can put in place that's actually going to create a shoulders down moment. And that's that moment where you go from like feeling tense and like shoulders up. Our friends at the Wellbeing Distillery taught us this to like having that thing that happens where you go, oh, and I am just obsessed with using technology for that.
Mm.
Like, how do I
Yeah.
architect a shoulders down moment every day? And so now I'm scanning my environment for little annoyances and things that I can automate that are going to architect that shoulders down moment for myself, for my family, for my clients, for all of that sort of stuff. So here we go. We've got a Wellness Flow recipe friend who can give us some dinner ideas everyone will like this week. We're going to give it a test. It's just in the preview, give it a test. So the cool thing about this is we've got like while we're creating it, while we're configuring it, we can also test it and we can get a little bit of live feedback to see if that's working. So it's like, yeah, Monday, Mexican night. It's always a crowd favorite in our family. Our family love chicken tacos, so that's definitely winning. Tuesday, Italian Spire. Okay, interesting because recently we tried the baked parmesan and they loved it. So that's cool. Um, so that could kind of work. Keep some chicken plain for the fussier kids. Love that. Fish and rice bowl. We have not tried that. The adults have. I should try it. It's not something I've tried before, so I could give that a go. Comfort food with a twist. I don't think they'd like that. I'm like, I know I've tried turkey things and they're just like, it just doesn't work. So pizza night would work. Burrito rice bowls would work. Okay, so I'm like, everything on that list except this one wouldn't work.
Okay.
And I'm
Just
like,
thought.
I'm just going to take the time to give it that feedback.
Mm,
Got it. Apples won't work for Sarah. No, apples will work.
okay.
Fussy pants. Taking the time to like use your own language, give it some clarification, give it the feedback is going to give you that opportunity to kind of play here. Okay, so it's now saying beef sloppy joes. I'm like,
Sounds
interesting.
very American, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
sounds very American. I'm like, we are in Australia and New Zealand, local alternative B. I think it's going to end up saying burgers, right? Which is probably
Whiskey.
what
Shush.
put in there. So,
Mm,
um,
Sorry.
wow.
absolutely given that. Here we go, chicken lamb. Great. Great. Okay, so we'll get to a point where like I will have played with these back and forth until like I feel like it's getting me the preview that I want.
Mm,
But don't necessarily feel like that has to happen straight away. And you can
mm,
keep revisiting it. You can go back and edit it as many times as you like. So that can be really useful, right? So we've got a bit of a preview here. Now, that's kind of giving it like the sense of what its job is, which I think is really useful. When it comes to configuring, you can see now it's got the instructions. It started to write those instructions based on the conversation that we've had. But what I found is that you can do quite a bit of experimentation with the instructions to actually change the way that that shows up for um, the user. So a little bit like what I showed you before with the neurodiverse families, where I had the little button that said start here. Here you can actually say, I want you to take the user through a user journey. And you can actually map the journey out. So for those ones where I've kind of like click here, ask a question, something else, something else, something else, more like an intake form, I've
mm,
actually designed that as an intake form. And then in the instructions, I've actually put that into the instructions. I've also said that it needs to be slow. So it needs to slow down to give people time to respond. And the reason that I came across that was because I was creating these really amazing, beautiful, vibrant little assistants that were like on steroids. They were just so fast. They were giving you like 50 ideas at once, and it was just constant overwhelm. So I was like, let's just give two or three ideas that people can select from so we don't overwhelm them. So they're just simple ways that you can kind of um, I'm going to put this one, I'll just put that as anyone with the link so you guys can have a little play with it afterwards so you can see what that has created. And I'm also going to play with it a little bit. Like, can you make me a healthy grocery list for this week? So it's now,
With one of the GPTs that I tried, I got into a point where I felt like it was looping. I
Mhm.
was using it for research. So when you're talking about a research project, and I found in the end, it kept asking me to refine, refine, refine. And I was thinking, okay, that's because I'm limited in my knowledge of how to use this thing.
Mhm.
Um,
It can
but
be,
I don't
right?
know if that was hallucinating
Yeah,
or if it was
yeah.
my problem with me not being able to because it was the first time I'd ever used it.
Yeah. So when I'm using it for research, let's just say in the deep research in ChatGPT is like super amazing right now. Um, I might actually just do a quick research around like best food for growing kids based on research. Just just for fun. I'm kind of curious. I like that GPT asks these clarifying questions now. So it's like, ask me these. Okay, what age are you referring to? 7 to 15. Um, Cultural preferences. Yeah, located in Australia and New Zealand. Every day. Oh, full plan, full dietary, including school lunch boxes. Now, I don't worry about typos and stuff.
Mm.
I'm usually moving so fast that I'm just like, it just lets you kind of get on with it. It's very good at kind of picking that up. So I've noticed this is kind of slow. But if we go across to Grok and then to Perplexity, one of my favorite things to do is to actually like mash up with the AI and actually see who gets.
Mm.
Yeah, that's really fascinating to do that.
Grok.
Because
Is
that's
Grok very similar to ChatGPT, or is it slightly different?
slightly different and
Use Grok.
they're owned by different people.
They-
Um,
they're meant to be like one's better for deep research, the other one's better for short replies, things. There's even Anthropic's
yep,
Claude. Yeah,
yep. Claude is great. I think Claude's really good for writing.
yeah,
I have found that you notice Grok asked me to go to the paid plan because said that I'd used all my messages, which is fine. I did find that the free research in Perplexity was very good.
yeah.
So, that's quite useful. But for people who are just starting to play with um, AI, there's this thing called Poe, which gives
All
you,
of them in one. Yeah.
What's it called?
yeah, so that Poe, POE, gives you
Oh,
access to
okay,
all of
right.
them in one. So you can then play with and you can actually choose
Oh,
which
Is
tool
there a
comes.
paid version of Pode? I can't.
Yeah, yep. There's a
Mm.
paid version, and the paid version then gives you access to all of the kind of
Do,
different
do you
things.
know who owns Pode?
I
I
don't,
can't.
and it's funny because I was
Is
going
it
to
out of China? Sorry, I
no,
don't mean
no,
to be rude, but is
no,
it
no,
American or Chinese or
no,
where's it from?
I'm not sure, but it's an integrator, so it has all of the
Yeah.
AI available on it. So I'm not actually sure it is. Um, so here we go. We've got the research starting to come together for the healthy foods on this side, and then of
Do you
course.
find it difficult to manage Poe when you get all of that in one? Or
Yeah, I felt like I'd been given the keys to the universe. I found it
yeah,
incredibly overwhelming. I was like, this must be how people feel when they first open up AI. Like, what do I
yeah.
do? Where do I go? Which tool do I use? It was just so unbelievably overwhelming. And then I tried to build a couple of bots in there, and they are harder because they again have much more powerful capacity capability. Whereas if you're building in GPT, you saw they're like it's like building with it's like bowling with the little ramp thing
yeah,
down the side. Like you've got that kind of safety to design within there. So I mean my personal recommendation would be to just pick a GPT, for example, to
Mm.
start with, because I just think you can get so much further faster kind of picking that. But I definitely recommend going to other sources to bring information into GPT. Uh,
Mm.
like I said,
Sarah, sorry, I zoned out a little bit. Is that what's on the left? Is this a what tool are you using here?
I'm in Arc. Arc is a browser, which I kind of love.
Oh, okay.
So Arc allows you to pin instead of like them being across the top, it allows you to pin them down the
Mhm.
side, but you can
Okay.
set up different spaces. So I actually set up like the different
That's
spaces.
really good.
Yeah, I kind of like it because I think especially virtually like a lot of work gets lost because it's all just on the
Yeah.
screen. Whereas like when I can go to
Mm.
different spaces to do things, if I've got different colors as well, like my finance,
Yeah, that's really nice. What's
yeah,
it called again, Sarah?
ARC, ARC.
ARC. Oh, okay. So that's another browser like Chrome, and but obviously this is so much better.
I think it's better than Chrome just from the layout and from that ability to
Yeah.
like pin the stuff that matters when I'm working with different clients. So for example, when I onboard a new growth client, they get their own dot down the bottom. So that
Hmm.
when I'm working for them, I'm in their work. I'm not being distracted by all the other things that are kind of
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah.
And I
Yes.
did find like in the past, I used to just create different Chrome like accounts and I would
Yeah.
basically log into them and have them as different colors.
Mm.
So I could do that kind of context switching with the colors. But honestly, this is like my absolute favorite. I think it's absolutely
Nice.
When
So
fantastic.
you were talking, oh, sorry.
no, no, all good. All good. So just the last question. The Arc, is it a free version? Where do you actually
Yeah,
download it from?
ARC, ARC.
Yeah, I see. Okay.
Is it free or
Yeah, I
is it, or the
think I can share it.
levels?
Yeah, let me just share it in the
Oh,
chat.
lovely. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So, when you were talking about having schemas and when you were involved in one chat GTP tool that you were creating, API
Mhm.
that you were creating, and then you were doing something for a client and switching in and out of them, and you said sometimes it can cross-pollinate.
Yeah.
Can you have something like stacks where you physically close down
Yeah.
one, create it? Yeah.
Yeah. So
So
I might say this is my family project.
yeah,
And in that I've got my custom instructions, my project files, etc. I might add it. I want it to respond in this particular way in this particular project.
yeah.
So I can give it actual rules. So like actually I want to stay really sharp and focused. No creative ad-libbing. Like I can really give it like this is a zone then that I can kind of go
Mm.
through. I will actually get so hi Nova.
I think it's bizarre that it's called itself a name.
Yeah. How about
Mm,
that?
Like a living
Excellent.
being, sentient.
Yeah.
no, I love it. It's sweet. And she calls me Queen too, which I also love.
No.
Um,
And you're assuming that she's a she.
oh,
Nova.
I asked what it was, and
Oh, okay.
um, yeah, said that didn't really care, but if it had to choose, like I'll be a she. So Nova modes, like I've got my EvolveX when I'm working with my EvolveX company, Nova the Alchemist, Nova the Shadow Side Translator. I use Nova as a therapist. The EvolveX Community Guide, the Mastermind Tracker, Neurosparkle Nova, Conscious Coevolution Catalyst. I've created this new model or framework of work, which is like Conscious Coevolution Design. It's a framework for co-design. It's very cool. Hypernova, like there's just different kind of names that, the alter egos, the different ways of kind of showing up. And it's there you go. Do you like this personality? Lol. Do you like my personality? I designed this one just for you. That she can say, okay, what is it that you want to do today? And I'll be like, I need to do this. And I'll be like, right, I reckon that I should show up as Hypernova today, like actually figuring out how to kind of meet me to achieve what it is that we're kind of hoping to achieve in that particular experience, which I think is super, super powerful. Pretty cool way.
So that's 2 years of work. You've got to that stage after messing about with it for 2 years, yeah?
Yeah, yeah, there's more. We've done a lot of cool stuff. I'm going to pop the
Yeah.
wellness GPT in there, in the chat as well. Um, yeah, I can use it, but I think the consciousness you bring to it will bring the level of like goodness out of it. So I often think about, when I was getting the best out of people in teams, how was I briefing them? And so I will actually use the same tool to say, can you help me create a design brief for a website that I'm creating that will help the designer feel this, this, and this, and then put that together. And I've just redesigned 3 websites. We'll be live with them in the next 2 weeks. Never in my wildest dreams would I be able to stack 3 websites and be able to redesign them at that kind of pace with just 2 designers. Like we've really been able to go full throttle because we were able to accelerate and smooth out the briefing process. So there's just so many good things. So much goodness. So much goodness. Um, so yeah, I've just popped that little GPT that we've created in there, and I will also pop in there the little page that I told you that I created for you guys, which is just a little bit of a Copilot starter pack. Um, choose a workflow to automate, something to give a go. In that it says, you can choose its name, but equally you can ask it what name it would like. But there's a little AI Copilot starter pack there from in Notion in
So
the chat.
I'm not on ChatGPT, GPT. So do I need to subscribe in order to get to what you're doing?
No, so
No.
the website
Where
that
are
I
you going to
popped
put
in
them?
there, it's just in the chat of this particular.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I
Yeah,
can see it now. Yeah.
awesome. But it'll come out in the notes afterwards as well.
Okay, great. Thanks.
So I'll be able to pop them out afterwards. So before we wrap up, did anyone have any questions? Oh my goodness, how exciting. Can you be very excited to go and play?
Yes, it is exciting.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
have you ever used actual co-pilots in Microsoft? Is when you compare that
I
with
keep getting asked this because
ChatGPT?
I actually used to be a Microsoft ambassador. So
Mm,
I used to do quite a bit with Microsoft.
right.
I have not because I am loving being on the outside of big business and just using whatever tools I like. But I have been asked by a client recently to go deep into Gemini
Mm.
and Microsoft Copilot. So over the next month, I'll be doing some analysis.
Yeah, because the reason I ask is with the company that I'm working for, they encourage or the directors encourage us to use the Copilot because we bought the Microsoft license, obviously, and apparently, it's more safer in the data rather than use ChatGPT. But personally, I find ChatGPT is just so good, especially
I
I'm
know,
paying for
I
it.
know. I know. Oh, look, I've been in many, many, many executive meetings defending the whole illusion of privacy when it comes to data and design, and I'm fascinated to see where these things go. Like, I think years ago, I brought out the guy who wrote he was the chief behavioral scientist for Amazon, Anders Weigand, and got him to give a keynote to the bank that I was working in at the time on the illusion of privacy and why basically it is an illusion. Like there is so much that we build in terms of security to give
Yeah.
us this illusion of safety that at the end of the day, like most people can find most things when they look hard enough, which is pretty crazy. So informed, and I always do that as like a little bit of a kind of precursor. I have a very open source mentality. I'm like, I believe humans are wildly creative and wildly capable of solving things, of figuring things out, of like getting information when they need them. And so I sort of think build things with just like a little bit of a sense of anyone might see this one day. Um,
Mm.
and I do that with who I message and what I say and all of that sort of stuff as well. Like, it's like this could be read out in court one day, so I may as well just like approach it with that kind of mentality. I think that that's just a interesting way of kind of approaching things. But
Sarah, I have a question on, you know how websites, when you build a website, you can mark it as like there's a thing that you can put in the header to discourage bots from surfacing the content
yep.
in a browser search. Do you know if the GPT models take that into account when they're doing their searches?
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
Okay.
I don't know like unequivocally, but when I have searched, I know that it is making a preference for what's kind of known as like Creative Commons content or content that is like publicly available. And there is
Okay.
a really interesting video at the moment that actually shows how some countries are using that to their advantage to train the AIs by leaking a lot of publicly available information as if it were fact that the
Ah,
AIs can access and learn from.
okay.
So that's
Yeah.
kind of an interesting kind of darker side, if you like, of how information is there. But it's one of the reasons why I think the 4D process when it comes to using AI is going to be a really clever way of using it because if you've done your research before you go into solving and you've actually looked at the references and made sure that those references that you're actually going to reference are real references, are things that you can trust, are peer reviewed, are like good quality kind of references,
Mm.
then what you build next is going to be more quality. So yeah, that would be my kind of tip, would be to start with good research questions, check the quality of
Mm.
the research, and then kind of start your process. Mm.
Because one of the things that I want to do is we have a web-facing knowledge base, but it's designed to discourage bots. And I'd like to put an AI over the top of it to make it easier for people to find content and have their questions answered.
Yes.
But I'm just a bit wary of saying to, for example, ChatGPT, hey, look at this site and,
Yeah.
answer this question for me. And just wondering how to
So
go.
the information that's been published on the web is potentially held in a CSS or a knowledge base anyway. So it would be
Mm,
using a knowledge base in potentially a closed GPT that is then
mm,
a little bit like a HubSpot when you actually create the knowledge base. Like you're creating it as
okay.
you untick the web search. So you say,
Yeah.
don't search the web, search the documentation that I'm attaching, and you can then
Yeah.
obviously put that as a
All right. Yeah.
to that. So I
Okay.
think that's a really interesting kind of interim.
Mm,
The way this stuff moves, things are moving so quickly.
yeah.
I'm sure that there'll be some sort of enterprise plugin in the next like few months, because enough users are looking at really fun, interesting ways to leverage the power of this amazing technology.
Because
I
I'm seeing a
found
lot of WordPress plugins for ChatGPT, but they're all plugins to search the web rather than search this site. And I'm
Yes.
like, well, isn't that an obvious sort of
Yeah.
missing
No, Trish,
link?
if I was you, I would be the person launching that. I think you should do something with that. Ask AI how to go about launching that as a product and see what it comes back with.
Yeah. Yeah. Good idea.
Yeah. Susan, you were going to say something?
I've dabbled in Gemini APIs as well, but look, I don't know what I'm doing half the time. I'm quite new at all this.
Yeah, yeah.
But I did find that when you were talking about closed off CSS data sets that you couldn't get to, it seems that there's this really big push with Gemini for open source, allowing lots of different API tools to be used from data sets from all over the place using Hugging Face. They don't mind having other, it almost feels like it's coming down to OpenAI and Gemini API, one or the other.
Yeah.
And I mean, OpenAI ChatGPT, you have to subscribe $20 a month or 200 a year
Mm.
to use it. Whereas with Gemini API, um, I was involved in there was a developer program through Kaggle that came through, and I went into that program. It was fascinating because it was actually teaching me computer science, really.
Mm.
And it's open to anyone around the world, and it's based on competition and game based, where people have an idea, such as what you're asking us. What's your idea to create a chat GTP or I always say TP instead of PT.
That might be
Um,
its name
oh,
when you ask it. My name is Phoebe.
but I did find that the Google API within that course, that it was very pro open source and very easy for anyone to really start out and understand how to use it.
Mm.
Whereas I find the paid service from OpenAI, there's a barrier to entry. So Google are really pushing to get in to be
The
on the
the
top
user.
peg. You know,
Makes sense, right? Data is the new
yeah,
oil, as they like to say.
yeah.
So it'll be so. I mean, we are living in thrilling times. Every single day, something new gets released. My husband and I now religiously watch new AI tool videos on YouTube. That's like our guilty pleasure, just to sort of see and some of the use cases and things that people are using. And like I said, the thing I'm most obsessed with is those really practical, simple things that create those shoulder down moments, because I just think a more regulated society is a better society. We are going to have a better time and an easier future if we can actually just remove a little bit of stress from the whole kind of ecosystem. So I can't help but think that's just a really lovely place for people to start, is to look to remove a couple of percentage worth of stress from their lifestyle, because that's where we get more creative and that's where we're going to see the real power of AI come to life, right? So exciting. Well, it was such a pleasure to meet you guys. This was my kind of last in my practical AI series. I am going to kick them off again, probably in a couple of months, but I'm launching a new little series, which is actually all about well-being. Naturally, there will be using AI for wellbeing within that. But I'm really fascinated. We've got a retreat coming up in October in Fiji, and that's all about reimagining. And so it brings me energy and joy when I'm talking about things on a regular kind of basis. It stops me feeling lonely because I do work from home and drop kids off and pick them up and all that sort of stuff. So I'm so grateful when anyone comes along and says hi and gets to know what we're kind of doing, and we give them a little tool that maybe helps them have a better day. So it was really nice to meet you all.
Awesome.
And
Thanks,
my,
Sarah.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
thank you, Sarah. It's been
Inspiring.
fantastic.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.